Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with a rundown after a very quick day. Bilibili 3-0ing C9. We're going to take a look at the games and have a discussion about what actually went down. I hate to... Honestly, I don't hate it. I feel like I deserved, a little bit of bragging rights because... Sure, it's not that tough of a prediction to say that the Eastern teams are going to smoke the Western teams like a barbecue, ribs, brisket, burger, whatever you think of, whatever you're in the mood for. Shashlik. But in the fashion that everything went down, I think that I have had a very, very accurate read. So I hope that you feel fortunate when you're about to listen to my breakdown. So before the series, I mentioned that C9, I think that they muscled through their region by just being individually better. And I think that fundamentally, in terms of their basics, I think that they were never that sound. I think that Berserker overperformed, not overperformed, but played better than his counterparts. I think Eminus had moments where he played better than his counterparts. The same thing for Fudge and the same thing for Blabber as well. Support is support, right? Sven is a strong player, don't get me wrong, but they often outperformed their counterpart in mechanical aspects, and their mistakes weren't as costly because they could muscle their way through situations. And I think, the bottom line is C9, to me, after watching their whole run in playoffs, they weren't strong fundamentally around setting up objectives and how they snowballed early games. There wasn't a clear red thread in their approach to games, right? And in my mind, C9 coming up against Bilibili, they're going to face the music, mainly face the fact that you are not better individually than the opponent. So your fundamental ideas of how you approach the game is where you're going to be really, really tested, right? And now with C9 versus Bilibili, I predicted Bilibili 3-0, went down. I think also the Mad T1 series, the way I pictured it and how it could potentially go down and the potential strength Mad could have and the issues they will face against T1 were also very true. Genji versus G2, I claim that this is the series where this is the highest upset chance because of how polarizing both teams are and G2's peak potential. And this was a series that almost went to 5 games, right? And I think G2 is still, the strongest Western team. Let's jump into C9 versus Bilibili. I'm done bragging now, all right? Sorry for being a little bit of a dick, but, I need to, enjoy some kind of victories because I'm not competing. All right, C9 went for the approach of banning out Yagao. So they banned Ari, Nautilus, Annie. They wanted to make sure that Yagao is as exposed as possible and not playing champions that kind of always find value no matter what, right? These are champions that are going to contribute, whether it's with they just have presence and pressure regardless of their condition. As long as you use your spells towards the enemies, you're going to have value, right? It's usually when someone tells you, yo, if I want to climb, what should I play? Play fucking animate, right? That is, the sacred words of LS, right? Just lock Annie, right? So these champions are getting targeted. This was the approach of C9. All right, let's see how it pans out, right? They want to have a little sniff on what Bilibili is going to do in regards to bot lane, and they play it out. Bilibili Banke Santa is something that C9 flexed, and also Nidalee and then Maokai. Blabber is someone that played Nidalee in the past. The famous Crabber clip is him playing Nidalee. He's a very versatile player. Maokai is something that C9 played a lot in playoffs, right? So you have Xayah first pick because, of course, they're expecting the Vi to come in, and they think that Xayah is strong into Vi, so they're making this trade. And usually, with Vi, Vi is an insanely OP champ because she kind of funnels the enemy mid laner and enemy champs into picking very specific champs. And then the question is, are you happy with that invitation, or is the Vi going to end up being unhappy? Because it's very tough, to find the right champs. But I like this approach, and I thought that there was some adjustments that C9 could make. Here, Bilibili showed their whole hand, right? When they pick Nami and Vi, then the Lucian's coming in on 3 100%. A lot of people ask, why don't they play Lucian on solo lane? Lucian, his power has been very shifted into the duo lane because of his passive. When he gets healed or shielded, or when someone hits the W, basically the W mark that Lucian applies, he gets a passive damage boost, which is a very big deal. His base stats have been nerfed, and he just belongs in the bot lane. Sure, you could play it in solo lane, but it comes with such a great risk. If you fall behind, you're going to really hate yourself for doing this. And, sure, here, if you maybe make this bottom lane awkward for the opposition, you might have some odds, but, it isn't like a clear-cut strat, right? So Cannon gets picked. So I thought here, when I watched this, I was like, okay, they're going to pick Lissandra on 3. Because the enemy needs to pick Lucian on 3, and you pick Lissandra here, and then you ban, for example, Talia, and then you have Lissandra into Vi, and all of a sudden you have a composition, right? It's like Lucian running cleanse against Zayarakan isn't like super great, and you diminish some of his power. And then you have a Lissandra with these bans, Ahri being out, Annie, Nautilus, Lissandra just looks like a very juicy champion as well. K'Sante, 4 mid lanes that are being played are already out of the picture. So I thought Lissandra gonna pick here on 3. But we continue. Lucian is picked, and then here Bilibili decide we're going to 5-pick our dear mid laner. Sion, Galio gets banned. They're just removing another Yagao champion, and then Sion. Sion is an answer into Cannon, but then again, it's, you're banning Sion against Bin. He has played it, but he also has played Gnar into Cannon a lot more. Every time I see Bin's Gnar into Cannon, he always just finds a base on Mercs, and then he just begins to build the lead, and then he completely fucking dominates, right? That's the key thing. A lot of the people that made their opinion about Bilibili only watched her playing games. I watched Bilibili the whole year. And I had the privilege of watching those games, right? So Gnar gets locked in, and in this spot, maybe you consider shift the Sion ban into something else. Maybe you can look to do something different. They ban Sion because maybe their intention here with the Nocturne and the Sylas, these are champions that become a little bit stronger, right, when Sion is out of the picture. So maybe this was the intention. But here, once again, right, I don't like the Sylas. Like, Sylas only has the Gnar ult, and you're blind picking a champion that allows for Yagao to pick a champion that he's comfortable with. So you've invested 3 bans, and then the enemy is Vi Talia into your Sylas. The thought process of Sylas here is, if they pick Sylas, it means they don't want to pick Lissandra themselves, and they want to prevent the enemy from picking Lissandra. I think that's the only possible take here from picking Sylas, because Gnar ult doesn't justify it. I think that this is a very, very hard composition to play Sylas against. And I think, generally speaking, Sylas is quite weak in the current meta. Vi ult is very strong against Sylas. Gnar in isolation, especially because he's laying against Cannon, is going to itemize very well into Sylas. And I think this was a very big problem, right? And then the Nocturne, I think, is perfectly fine, right? I think Nocturne with Rakan, with Cannon is a decent combo. I think Nocturne here is pretty decent. Once again, I bring back the idea of Lissandra, right? Lissandra would have been quite decent in my opinion. But then again, there's 2 schools of thoughts here. It's just that when enemy locks in Vi, the pool of champions that you can play is very limited, right? Because you need to pick a champion that is good into it. That's why I was surprised by the Cannon here on 3. Cannon is something that is, generally speaking, strong, but I think if you have this option to pick Lissandra here on 3 into Vi and then ban additional mid laners here and then 4-5 pick top, I think it would have been fantastic. Would have been really, really good. And I think it would have been better. But I understand also from C9's point of view that when they're playing against a player like Bin, that they want to give Fudge some priority in the draft by picking a Cannon that is a universally considered strong laner, Sion out, and then they make simplifications for top. So here, I think Bilibili, Lucian, Nami, Vi, Gnar, Talia. This is a very standard composition, right? They can play on poke, they play on range. Things can get volatile in bot side, right? Nami, Lucian versus Zayarakan. This is kind of a jungle gap lane. There's going to be opportunities on both sides, so things can get very volatile. Lucian, Nami is ahead. They can do a lot of damage in poke. If Zayarakan is ahead, then Lucian, Nami can't breathe. Very volatile stuff, right? And both junglers aren't junglers that necessarily are that strong at interacting, so they're usually going to match and just walk with the slow pushes that both teams have. And then the Talia, I think Talia with Vi is just, generally speaking, a very strong combo. You can play on distance, and as long as Lucian and Talia don't get caught in that engage together, things are going to look beautiful, right? But I think that C9 still concocted a good draft. It's just that Sylas is completely out of place here. I think Sylas is really, really bad here. Sylas just ruins everything here, I think. So we continue. We look at the game. I think the game definitely highlights some of the macro issues the North American teams are going to be facing, right? That they always face. It's like every Drake, even though the enemy, it's like the way North America sees Drake is that they see only mid lane and Drake in isolation. The way the Eastern teams pay attention to Drake is that they involve side lanes in the build-up towards Drake. And I think this is the big key difference maker, right? I was worried about Sven Rakan because he wasn't the greatest at it, but he has spammed it a lot in solo queue, and I think mechanically played quite decent. When I look at the players of C9, I think that Blabber had a good series individually, Berserker had a good series individually, even though he looked a little bit like stiff and cold, you know? Keep in mind that C9 came in dry, right? They came in dry without practice, like on stage, and they haven't played on stage for quite some time, so I think that's fine. Right? You see here, like Berserker, it looks like he's cancelling some autos, right? He's hitting, then here, I believe he cancels an auto, walks back, and he gets hit and spaced. You know, this kind of look like a stiff Berserker, right? But then again, we give him that leeway because he's warming up to the series, right? Billy played play-ins, playing on stage, the settings, the environment, that's okay. Berserker definitely played good the series, so I don't want to like get stuck on him. We had Nocturne here pivoting after doing 3 sides bot side. So this is a little bit awkward, right, for Blabber. He did 3 sides bot camp, and then he went into bot. Maybe the idea here from C9, they said that they can actually contest the push and fight the push, and then Blabber is going to look to fight the Vi here on bot side. That would have been good. But now Blabber is a little bit homeless because his bot side actually like lost the initial trades, right? Already we have 3 potions down against Doran's Blade potion. So this is, you know, a favorable spot here for Billy's bot lane. So Blabber is here, and Zun, I don't know why Zun, you know, he just queues in because the enemy doesn't have the queue. But I think that Blabber, you know, respects Nami here and didn't want to fight to the death. I think Silas could have maybe hovered as well. I think Nami couldn't teleport there. There was some volatility here around the bottom side. And, you know, definitely, like this made me really nervous here for Elk, because it actually looks like he's in turret range because he takes the initial shot. But it actually, you know, he takes a turret shot from being initially in the turret, and he actually walked out. I thought he was still in the turret. He was going to die here when this minion, that this turret shot was flying towards his minion. She was crazy. So Billy pass, like walk out, no cleanse. Zun secures his bot side crab, and then Nocturne needs to go into top side. And we continue. This was the game that was definitely closest in the series, so we're going to pay attention a little bit more to the details. You know, Ben always the same. He finds a good trade here. Fudge was tanking the cannon minion in a wave. You know, he crossed past his wave, and the Fleet Footwork is doing a lot of work. Doran Shield is doing a lot of work. Ben managed to secure the Merc Thread space. I don't know the details exactly of how this played out, but usually this is the pattern that we always see when Ben is playing, of course, against any cannon. He did this regionally too. He did this against 369, I believe, in the regular split. But this was, of course, against a weaker cannon, but things still are relevant. This is usually the biggest weakness of Cannon Lane, is the fact that he can't itemize in a way that allows him to snowball matchups. For example, here, if you compare the base, this is 18 Magic Pen versus 25 Magic Resistance, and also the Tenacity component. The move speed is against move speed is similar, but in terms of isolated 1v1s, the Mercs obviously provide a lot more value than Sorcerer Shoes. The reason the game is designed like this is because penetration applies on 5 opponents, in theory, right? And magic resist only applies on you. So obviously the magic resistance, you know, the value of it needs to be higher in order for it to make sense, and then everything balances itself out when Void Staff is kicked in, right? If the enemy over-indexes an MR, Void Staff is the point where it gets value. And Void Staff as an item is designed to almost always gives value based off of even MR per level, because the breakpoint is, of course, 50 magic resistance. But the key component here that people forget sometimes is that Shadow Flame doesn't always give you 20 magic pen. It's related to your HP, and also it's related to shields, right? Shadow Flame was supposed to be the shield breaker item, which of course is a big meme. But there are cases when you get full value of Shadow Flame, and there's a lot more cases where you don't. So it's very important to keep that in your mind when you evaluate and estimate Shadow Flame. It isn't 20 flat magic pen, it's conditional. We continue. So I have a big fight here on Drake that goes completely crazy. Elk was a man on a mission. This was, just looking at this trade here, the W lands from Sven was a good job. I think that Berserker and Sven, they could have flashed forward and pressured forward maybe a little bit earlier. The potion is ticking, and the W of Nami is very clutch and very close. This could have maybe ended in a different way. This is very, very narrow, you know. It's super, super close. We continue. A big fight here on Drake allows C9 for an opportunity to find a very big conversion. So this is a Chemtech Drake. The unique thing about Chemtech Drake is the fact that this Drake, actually gives you jack shit in terms of stats, healing shield power, who gives a damn, very conditional stat to be useful, doesn't even amplify your lifesteal. So even in those cases where you think, oh, maybe it amplifies my lifesteal, it's kind of nice, it doesn't even do that, okay? And the Chemtech, when it drops below 50%, it just turns into a monster. Just look at how Jun's HP drops down during this whole contention. This dragon is now going berserk, sicko mode. He's punching Jun. He's doing a lot of damage. Look how Jun just dropped down. He dropped down because this Chemtech is full stack Lethal Tempo. And then here you see a position where, in reality, Billy made a mistake by, once again, this principle that I always talk about on the stream is when you are taking a objective, pull it towards the side that you didn't contest from to make sure that your weaker part can commit to you. Imagine a situation here where they pulled out the Drake into this pocket here that I'm showing. And then Silas cannot connect. They can break Silas's ankles, and then this would have been a lot better. But instead now Jun is in the pit, and C9 can actually attack him from an angle that wouldn't work in a case where they actually pull it out towards Talia. Because if they pull it out towards Talia, do you think Silas can even enter the river here? Not possible. Not possible. But this ward spots him on the Drake, and it gives Silas all the time and space in the world to actually enter the river. So this motion where you pull out the Drake, so for example here, Lucian, Nami, Vi contest through bottom side. They push in bottom side and go towards Drake. They pull out the Drake, connect with the Talia, pull it towards Pixel. Simple. Very simple. So here's Zun in the pit alone. He gets snacked on. Yagao completely abandons his team. Because imagine Yagao is here together with the homies. It would have been a lot better. MNS doesn't really have a great ult to steal. Like here, Yagao just completely abandons. I don't know where he's going. He thinks that his teammates can ride this wall. They don't have a surfboard like you do, Talia. Come on. So Talia needs to, of course, fight with his homies here. And Yagao just goes for a play and they get completely abandoned. And all of a sudden, wow, C9 have great chances here. No sums, Nocturne ult is coming up. This is going to be a fantastic juicer. Wow, maybe Billy is going to throw this series and C9 actually can get past the phases of them, you know, having potential macro issues through this. We get a little replay, and sadly we don't get to see the setup on the bot dive, but here's the bot dive. And they just stacked the wave on bot, Lucian Nami was dead, and then they crashed it, Nocturne ults, no sum, of course, of Elk on GG. So now you're thinking, wow, C9 have a very clear path to victory. Very, very clear path to victory. They just need to pressure bot, secure cannon, make sure he doesn't get dove, and take it easy. But here is where C9 lose a lot of steam and Billy get a lot of breathing room, right? So Nocturne is clearing his jungle, he's going to path into bot, and he's telling his team right now, if I can clear my camps, Stridebreaker is kicking in. I'm going to be so fast. Fantastic. Beautiful. Nocturne is basing now, Stridebreaker is finished, I am juiced up. I am basically Mr. Olympia Arnold. I am ready to go. Nocturne is pathing into top, I don't know why here. I don't know why. My man has ult on, still I see that on doesn't have flash, just be in fog of war, and I think the best thing that you can do is just hover around bottom side. If your Rakan wants to base, that's okay, connect with him, take your time. Blabber can then of course play for this top side. But here, Bin does look very dead on my screen, but he fucking survives, and that's what makes this into a complete fucking disaster. If they kill Bin here, they hit top turret, they get platings, it's a very nice one. I don't mind this at all because Rakan was on base. But the fact that he dies, he survives here, really is a mess. It's a mess. And then MNS here doesn't flash, you know, the stun doesn't land, the Mercury Threads Gnar gets away, but they use Nocturne ult, and it gives Lucian Nami a lot of breathing room, right? On has flash again. Imagine a world where they actually consciously made the setup for the bot play, because Lucian Nami couldn't contest the wave because they need to respect the Nocturne, right? Talia had no flash from before as well, and you know, this is just a very, you know, rough point. You can't drop these chances. If they killed Gnar, maybe I'd feel okay about it, but the fact that he got away is big trouble. Big trouble. We continue. It is one of those examples, right? It's like Billy have the Herald, and you see that C9 are going to index here on the Drake. Sven is into bottom side. They secure this full turret, and they're trading this full turret for the Drake, right? They're not punching bot, they're not pressuring bot through this motion because Nocturne has no ult. So the trade-off here in terms of gold is just crazy favored for Bilibili. Bilibili is kind of crazy here to fucking hit tier 2 because C9 have a very easy time of collapsing. They need to invest way too much time to even push this. Even in a case where they started walking away now, their bases are going to be cancelled and the enemy is going to be able to hit top platings because you didn't base. So this was a very crazy situation. I don't know why they went for this, right? And this is why Bilibili is considered like the weakest Eastern team by far, because they're making blunders like this. This is something that they just won't get away with. If they do this against Genji, they do this against JDG, they do this against T1, they're gonna get smoked like yesterday's roast, okay? This is, of course, a complete disaster. And then here on the next E, Eminence is going to reach with the Vi ult, and he's gonna get snacked on, and GG. But still, right? Throughout this whole Eminence, I don't know how Eminence dies. I just ease the minion. So instead of exiting the other way, he goes through here and dies to Bin's E. Okay. So Bilibili, you know, Xayah, Rakan transferred their pressure into mid and hit mid platings, and Lucian Nami hit bot, and they TP'd bot. I think this was a fine macro play from C9. No problem roll, they punished top. Just sad that Silas died, of course. We continue. It is one of those moments, right, where it's like the vision is fully placed by Nami on bottom side. Talia is crossing into bot, and Nar already stole the top wave. So if you see this position, right, in terms of just the tempo and how everything played out, there's no top wave for the enemy to play on, and Talia knows that the enemy is playing full top side because no one is showing on bottom side, right? So no one is showing on bottom side. Talia knows that she can push the wave for free. And in terms of the information that C9 has, you know, the key thing here, right, is that at some point you need to recognize that the enemy is not contesting, and you need to make the defensive maneuver into bottom side, right? Lucian is catching, and Talia picks up the turret on bot. For example, Cannon, if he wanted to, could be on bot wave. But at the same time, if he doesn't spot Vi, he could get Dove on bot, right? He could get Dove on bot. So this is not the end of days. This is perfectly fine. Then he gets snacked on. We continue. We get the replay out of this, right? But to find the correct moment, that's why I'm a little bit silent here. I think the moment I'm thinking about happened game 2. So forgive the silence. Forgive the silence, homies. Just pondering a little bit my thoughts. Enter the mind of YamatoCannon. We continue. At this point, just in terms of gold, right? It's just in terms of how much Silas is farmed, in terms of the condition of Cannon, it's hard. Very hard. And I feel like that was the story of the series. Like in terms of farm distribution, in terms of awareness of what they give up for objectives, Bilibili was just sharper. There was a lot of timers that were wasted, where Silas and Cannon paid the price of a wave to commit to a situation, but Bilibili just stepped off and cut their losses and took a step back. And I think this frame here, in terms of the power distribution, right, in the game, it's like Talia is now on 2 core, Nar is on 2 core, while Cannon and Silas are limping in on very weak items. That was the story of the series. Very similar to Mad Lions versus BDS, right? It's like BDS is the team that indexes very hard on 2 objectives, and they're committing 5 men into contesting them. But in those moments, Bilibili have a more holistic view of what is going on the map as the objective spawns. Because many times, Bilibili, they are stacking waves and pushing waves and leverage the information that they create through wards to know which side the enemy is playing on. But I think this point I'm trying to make is going to be more clear in game 2. So let's just continue. Look at this fight that is just, you know, the nail in the coffin. Fudge gets spotted here by this blue trinket that was played from before. Very gorgeous. He gets Vi ulted. And then he gets comboed by Talia. They find him. They break his ankles. And here, of course, C9 tried to return, but they burned every tool in their arsenal to kill a Nami. Bin now has Mega. Here at this point, C9, you know, Bilibili don't necessarily need to fight. I like that they back off. All Nar needs to do here is just be on the bot wave and force C9 to send 4 people to crash here and then just push all the other lanes. Here you can see something that Jun does. He's not looking to fight. He's just looking to spot the C9 members to see what their decision is. If they are not spotted here, it means they're trying to push her on Bin for a dive, and then he's going to make a different decision. But here he sees them exit, and Lucian can freely push, right? These are the nuance of the decisions. It's like, Jun is spotting people, Bin is just catching bot, Yagao is hovering in case they like to dive, and Lucian's already proceeding to the next point of the macro game, right? Now they pushed mid all the way, and already now, Nar can begin to push the neutral wave on bot, right? Nar is just waiting enough time to make sure that C9 is not going to basically, fuck him up on the bot wave by being in the bush. And then he's going to push the neutral, and then the enemy is going to have to respond, and during that time, Nar crosses through mid, puts down all the vision, and then he's going to be able to push deeper, and then the pressure amounts. And then the enemy needs to give up in order to retake. And if you do this process as cleanly as Bilibili does, you're not going to lose CS in the process. So Nar already pushes the neutral wave. And Nar is going to base. He sees Cannon pushing bot. It's like here Cannon is not pushing bot. Like here Cannon could be pushing bot, forcing Nar to go into bot straight, right? And then it would have been maybe changed. But he has Void Staff, so he wants to group. Like these small waves that you can squeeze in moments where you don't necessarily want to contest, this thing adds up. So Nar now is going bot. He's pushing the neutral, and he's pushing the next. And Bilibili are just taking it easy. They have full vision on Nash because of the situation from before, and they know the enemy is not going to start Nash because it's like if they do, it's like Bin's just going to TP in here. And during this sequence, once again, Cannon is bleeding farm, right? And this is not like some turbo timer either, like Silas doesn't really win here, or Silas is not that strong here. Bin takes it easy, Bilibili just do the right thing. It's like Jun, like this is something that Eastern junglers do super well. It's like they're just putting their body on the line to spot people and they queue out. Because they just want to see the decision of them. And here Bin is into mid, and all of a sudden 2 waves were lost bot, right? These things always add up. Like they just reoccur. And obviously at this point, it is kind of hard because Fudge doesn't win on side. But in terms of finding the windows to push the waves, it's still very important. And catch the waves and to actually make the timers when you're on mid be relevant, right? We continue. Nar is just hovering around mid because he's waiting for the bot wave to go into his side. And then he bases, he's going to open on bot again, and he's going to push all the way. In this moment, because Talia decides to stay, so it's like Talia chooses to push this neutral, so Nar needs to cover for Talia's job and go into mid. Because Silas is showing on bot wave, right? It's like Silas is showing on bot wave, and just because Talia is on top wave, it means that Gnar needs to take over Talia's job to cross into mid. And then after they cross into mid, because the enemy is showing on side with Silas and Cannon, they can then just take over mid and then go into bottom side. But the moment Bilibili spot C9 champions on any wards, the decision changes. It's all an information game, right? Because initially, they didn't spot Rakan, they didn't spot Nocturne. So if Gnar went under the turret, he didn't want to get dove and killed, right? Because Talia decided to push. And it was good to push because the tier 2 was very low HP, right? So he's just going for a value play, right? So Gnar needs to wait for information. The moment he spotted Rakan on mid, he just went into bot, and he knows then that his team, all they need to do is just chill, right? When I say chill, it's tether yourself in a way where the enemy can't really engage on you, right? So this was a little bit too much. It's like On died, you know, the Fed Nami died, and it's sad, but the idea is still there, right? It's like Gnar went bot because he spotted Rakan and the rest on mid. They know that the enemy can't do Nash because the top wave is pushed all the way, and what he can do then is start pushing bot and create a point of pressure, okay? But here On was over-posturing because he wasn't in tune with Gnar's decision. But it's very important that you show your body and you invite a very bad engage from the enemy. But you don't invite the good engage. But the difference between a good engage and a bad engage is very narrow. So that's why you see sometimes players int, because they are playing on the edge, right? Same with June when we saw the vibe before. He's looking to have presence in the game, spot enemy, and then with that information, you can decide, oh, the enemy is now 5 around mid. We can push out bot. We don't need to invite the engage and we back off. As long as we have information on Nash, the enemy can't pressure Nash, and we're going to be in position to TP on the Nash if that thing goes. So it's all about spotting people. Always about spotting people. The theory of this ward, right, here on mid. You place this ward. If you see people on this ward, it means they're contesting mid. And if they win mid push, you see also where they cross. It's very good, right? Very good. So here in this moment, Berserker is showing on the mid wave. Yaga already has pinged here, so they can cross into here, and they know that Xayah will be late to a fight that breaks out here. They use this moment to hover for Gnar. Gnar pushes, the enemy needs to react, and then they retake the space on top side. Very simple, clean, elegant gameplay. Now Gnar pushed, someone needs to catch, and now they take next mid wave. Gnar is gonna hover into mid, and then they push out top. Or if they want, in this sequence, because it's 28 minutes in, they just slam a Nash call, right? But here you can see in this position, right? Already C9 are quite desperate to contest this Drake because it's sole point, and I understand it, right? But here, Bilibili have all the decision making in the world. They can choose to match if they think that they are stronger in a fight, or they can choose to pressure Nash here and also find a lot of value. But here, their decision is, we're gonna match because we are way, way stronger. We are stronger, so we want to match. Yeah, Bilibili, they're aware. It's like, if the enemy... So the art of war, right? The art of war in League of Legends is that you want to create this half-moon formation, right? The reason you want to create the half-moon formation is because if the enemy crosses the point right here, right? That you can all engage in a crossfire without the enemy's breakout engaging on multiple people, right? It's like the most premium position here is Berserker because he's the strongest member, Fudge on a flank, and then MNS and Nocturne, they're playing these positions. If the enemy crosses through here, then you can find the crossfire, you can engage, and the enemy's breakout will only possibly attack one member. You know, often you see people like standing in the same pocket, like when we looked at the K-Corp reviews, or even like a lot of games, like people play in the same pocket because it's naturally to position there, but you need to pay attention to your teammates, right? But what you want to do, if you are then the red side, is that you want to attack the edges, right? So here, Bilibili attack the edge. They attack the edge of Fudge. But what happens in the position where they... If you see the red side team attacking Fudge, Fudge should be tethering back, and Sven, Blabber, Berserker should be tethering forward to keep that formation. Because if the enemy funnels into this spot, then you can also push forward with everybody else. So basically, it needs to be a living thing, like a rubber band. If you pull in this direction, you need to pull in that direction, because otherwise it will snap, right? So Billy always did a good job in this game of always sniping out the cannon and breaking his ankles. This was a good stopwatch, right? And then Sven, I think Sven went a little bit too far here, right? I don't know why Sven W'd out. I think he just needs to hold his abilities, right? Because the enemy here, I don't know where he's going. I just realized I don't know where he's going. Like Elk is just posturing on him, right? And he's just fucking peaced out. Right. So here they engage on the fudge. Good stopwatch, right? You see if the formation was played appropriately, right? If fudge kited downwards and these guys would kite forward when the enemy funneled into here, the position would have been better. But it played out similar here for C9, but they're not engaging in unison. You get me, right? If the enemy attacks the edges, you just need to move the half moon formation together. If your formation is like this, right? You need to move it along. If the enemy is trying to collapse on your edge. But you need to be aware of this. Now they just burn way too much to kill here Elk in the end. And Berserker and Fudge, their position wasn't ideal because they're very late to the fight. And then Bin here is quite unkillable. Berserker does his absolute best. And that's it. Guys, Sven played well this series. You know, Sven played good. You can't be like targeting one person, because I think internally, right? It's like, sure, we laughed at this mistake here to W over the Drake wall, but it's like, you know, every player had mistakes like this the whole series, you know? I don't think you guys should talk shit on Sven because he played decent, you know? So it's like, this is just, you know, plain and simple, team gap, it's okay. No need to point fingers, you know? And now, you know, Soul, the game is kind of over. They managed to kill Yagao here, and I think this was probably the best odds for you to roll to just start your Nash. I think that probably you should hold Rakan ult, and then I think probably you should just start Nash and hope for the best. It's like, you'll probably lose there anyway, but you increase your chances from winning from like 10% to like 15%. So it's like, it's just an odds play. Right? Sometimes I say an odds play. It's like, what are your best odds? Right now, Cena should be like, yo, Yagao is dead. We need to fucking win the game off of this. We're not going to get anything else. Right? I don't want the same conversation as yesterday when I said, yo, Mikhail's won the game here. That's not what I said, right? It's like, the enemy doesn't have Mikhail's, doesn't have Cleanse and Aphelios. This is going to be our best possible chance. Probably we have 5% to win the chance to win this game. And now, if they finish Mikhail, we're going to have 2%. So let's fucking take it. Is waiting for Elder a better shot? No. Like, this game is completely fucking over. Completely over. Alright, let's take a look at game 2. Game 2, we have C9 making adjustments. Annie, Ari, Nautilus, same bands. They'll stick with the Xayah. Nami, Vi gets locked in, and then Lucian, and then here the switch up is the big Sion. Once again, Sion, they can ban top laners to set up the Sion for success. The enemy picks Cannon, and I think that's a matchup that you can be happy with, right? Sion and the Cannon. Viego Elise gets banned as the junglers towards Blabberoni, and they slam Kindred Galio. I don't necessarily like Kindred too much against Nami, Lucian, and also like a blind mid. I think it's quite hard to play because there's a lot of shit that is going to be thrown your way that will force you to ult before anything even happens, right? But nevertheless, it's like this type of composition can be very strong on like Drake 1, 2, 3, right? So it's like a fine composition. I don't think comp-wise that this was a big problem. The enemy is very magic damage heavy. They picked Syndra on 5. This is perfectly playable, right? So we look at the game.
I know that it was something.
We look at the game. You know, I love BDS guys, but BDS would have gotten roasted by T1 just as hard, if not even harder. So, like, really, really, Like, calm down, okay? The West is quite weak right now. And no matter, like, everyone's trying to look at the same football, but just from different perspectives. But the truth is, you're just looking at a bowl of fruit. And whether you want to say, yo, this is just bananas and grapes, and someone else is saying apples and oranges, it doesn't matter. It's just a bowl of fruit. And in this analogy, the West is a bowl of fruit. And to think that sending any other team would have made any difference is hard cope. All right. So we fast forward a little bit. We had some bloody details in the bottom side. I think Berserker here could have probably flashed here for our boy Elk. Like if he flashed over this bubble, then it just would have been GG. It is really a culture diff. The West is not as serious about the game. Well, that's not it. It's like, I think the accumulation of all of the hard work of previous years is so snowballed in favor of Korea and the LPL that you need really like the stars to align for you to be competitive. 2019 G2, the stars aligned, okay? Mickey was probably the best support in the world 2019. Wunder was in the conversation of the best top laner in the world, right? Of course, the Shy existed, and he was the Baba Yaga. So when I say that, I imagine that the Baba Yaga doesn't, you know, you get me. It's like the stars aligned for 2019 G2. It's like every player on that team peaked and they functioned well and they smurfed and everything just played out perfectly. Perks on AD, you know, it was just beautiful. But keep in mind, the stars aligned for that to happen. Caps wanted to leave Fnatic, right? And then he joined G2. And then Mickey, after having a terrible year on Misfits, was absolutely smurfing. Chris was better. At Worlds, you can argue that, but not the whole year. Chris was not better the whole year. It's the whole King versus Zeus conversation all over again. If at Worlds you want to say Chris was better, okay. Chris was really good at Worlds. My point is, it's like great work ethic, great players, great teams also promote great competition. Because in those years where we had fantastic teams in Europe that spearheaded everything, the rest of the region also was better. Because this is the team to beat. When teams within a region have an adversary to break, the region gets better. And the thing is, when it comes to Korea, when it comes to the LPL, the top of the top, you know, all these, the standard for even you to compete in the LCK is so damn high. You go into scrims, you play against legends on legends on legends. And there's definitely years that are rebuild years. There's definitely years where things go worse, right? We came off of 2020 Worlds, you know? Fnatic was strong. Fnatic was strong, right? Fnatic was strong. G2 was strong. And then 2021, a lot of things shifted. It was a rebuild year, right? Reckless to G2. People were very excited about this, right? Didn't work out. We had the Fnatic rebuild, the G2 rebuild, right? 2021. And then the region went in a different direction. 2018 Korea was kind of a rebuild year, right? KT built their team, and then Korea was kind of, in a rough spot, right? And now we've been kind of in this constant limbo of rebuilding because the right composition hasn't been revealed, right? But Europe definitely has players that can compete with the best. My point is, this is not something that you fix within a year, because in the momentum of you trying to catch up, Korea is still moving. It's not only about catching up because you're super far behind. It's about accelerating faster than them. And that is a way tougher task. Why are we behind in the first place? Because of all of the things I've already discussed. I think culturally, I think that Korean teams, from my experience, have to spend a lot less time dealing with bullshit. And when I say bullshit, it's like bullshit like taking scrims seriously, taking practice seriously, disagreements between players. It's like everyone's there to work, and the standard is super fucking damn high. And I think Western ideals, it's very Hollywood, it's very focused on the individual, right? Very focused on the individual. While my impression of the Eastern ideals is focused on the group. I'm going to do what's best for the group. And this goes a long way too. But there was also a time where that went too far, right? There was a period where that went too far, and that was Korea's dip year, right? Before Damwon came in sweeping, right? 2020. It's like they became too rigid, too disciplined. T1 was very stiff 2019, very disciplined, very clear cut, but when G2 came swinging at them, that made everyone rethink, right? G2 was a very unique team because they forced Korea to rethink. And FPX was a part of that too with the Nautilus business that they did, right? Because when I was in Korea 2020, Damwon was very loose in scrims. They were chilling. They were meditating. They were adding like elements to their practice. They were very loose. They were trying champions. They were playing very, very loose in scrims. And, they let their individuality, show in the game. But at the same time, have that level of forming themselves into a spear, a collective spear, right? Wasn't Canyon just 1v9ing in 2020 in scrims? It's like the term 1v9ing has completely lost its meaning, right? It's like the Showmaker was insane, Beryl was really good. Like they were a very, very strong collective. By the current term of 1v9ing, sure. He was outperforming every fucking jungler that he played against, and he would fucking perform really, really good. Really, really good. I'm talking from experience scrimming against Damwon, right? Ghost was not the main character, but also he didn't need to be. he was a passenger. And some players are not fine with being passengers. Did you ever scrim against the legendary Griffin team? No. I scrimmed against DRX with Karia, Chovy, Deft, Doran, and Pioshik. But back to the game. Yeah, Berserker should have flashed here to kill Elk. Didn't happen, and on just flashed to finish off with the Rakan. Honestly, I thought Griffin, after group stage 2019, I thought that they could win Worlds. But Sword held them back, sadly. I'm telling you, like, Sven played good. It's like he's finding W's, he's finding the good stuff, right? Here it was so close that Elk just lives, and that would have been a complete disaster. They could not. Tarzan and Lehens were also bad. Oh, you're very wrong, Yanya. Very wrong. Very wrong. I remember those games very clearly because I saw them in person. I was there. Griffin were too inexperienced back then. Only played like 2 best of 5 the whole year. People forget that 2019, this was Griffin's second year. Griffin already played 2018 in the LCK. So they just had a lot of drama with their coach. They had a lot of drama with the business. I guess it was a rough one, right, from Sven. Like, he doesn't land this one because it's a very important one, right? It's like Elk is being stone cold here. Like, I believe that he has dash still. Like, Elk is just the coldest motherfucker on the planet. So it's like not a lot of people are gonna swing their testicles like this man, you know? Yeah, apparently they had like Kanavi on contract for like 18 years or some shit. Like, it was really crazy. Really, really crazy. I'm speaking hyperbolically, but it was a very like it was a prison contract, and then they sent him to JDG. Crazy if you think of the players that were there. So it was Kanavi, Tarzan, Lehens, Viper, Chovy, Doran, Sword. Damn. That's just crazy. So this is a very interesting moment, right? This is the moment that I want to look for, all right? So the Drake is spawning. Top wave is a neutral wave. Sion is already pushing bot, right? What Cannon does here is he says, yo, I don't want to contest this Drake. Fuck this Drake. And the moment Cannon shows on top, then I believe C9 should be like, yo, the enemy team is not contesting Drake. We need to make sure that Cannon doesn't farm us completely during this time. So I think that we should send someone top, and we should still be stronger in the 4v4 in case the enemy tries to contest us. But instead what happens is they place the Herald, which is fine, right? You want to break the mid turret, no problem. You see Billy, they are pushing forward and tethering really well to what the enemy can pressure them with, right? It's like this is something that the Eastern teams do so well. It's like they pressure the enemy and they make sure that you waste as many people as possible. But Syndra is already pushing on bot, and the fact that they all show here, right? They show 4 people. So Elk posturing here, like the Giga Chat that he is, makes 4 members show. So this lets Syndra push bot. Imagine a scenario right now where Berserker's on the mid wave and 3 people are in river and 1 person is recalling. The enemy can't breathe. They will not be able to push bot wave because Syndra is going to get collapsed on if she does. And someone is already basing and being there at the same time. Do you guys understand me? You follow me? Imagine if Sion started the recall. They walk on mid wave, Zaya's alone on the wave. If Lucian wants to dash forward, Rakan's gonna E and he's gonna jump and he's gonna be pressured. He needs to consider this. And then there's Gali ult, right? But what happens is, Elk has the testicles of a bull and he walks forward and he makes 5 people show here. What happens is Syndra is pushing bot for free, Cannon is pushing top. So what is this price that C9 is playing using Herald, which should be an advantage, and then going towards Drake? Look at them go 5 men towards this Drake that it's so obvious that the enemy team is not going to contest. Here Billy Bizun is walking forward to spot people, right? Once again, doing the same thing. He was just to spot people. Oh, no one's here? Okay, it means that 5 people on Drake or they're basing. Cannon's pushing. Syndra's on mid. It's like here they just want to make sure that they push mid. They're giving up this Drake. C9, 5 players are hitting this Drake. Why? They could be maybe pushing on the wave. Maybe they could have done something. But still, Cannon's pushing for free. Syndra's just connecting with her team. They lose mid turret. They lose top turret. Cannon's hitting tier 2. They lost waves on waves on waves on waves. Now Zaya's on bot. Zaya's on bot. Zaya's on bot so Billy can continue. Right? They lost so much gold. So much gold. Let's just take a step back and check how much gold they lost. Okay? So we oh shit. Pressed the wrong button. So let's take a look at this. Okay? Cannon shows up top now. Let's just look at the gold. 28k. 28k. And let's fast forward. 29k. They push bot wave, top wave. Now minions are dying into the turret. 2 waves are just dying into the turret. Boom. 30k. More waves are dying into the turret. 31k. Look at that gold swing. For Cloud Drake. When in theory, right, the theory should be, we are stronger, we should be matching them. But what does matching them mean? It's like, the moment you leave Zaya on the mid wave, and you should be in fog. Zaya takes the mid wave. Maybe sometimes it's hard, right? It's like Lucian Nami can dash on Zaya, burn her health. If you can't find pressure on the Lucian, maybe not Rakan needs to be always on Zaya. But let's say Krindred is in river, Galio's on bot wave. Then you can play with ult, you can control the river. Then you can base with Sion. Sion can go top. He can push out the cannon. He wins against cannon. And then all of a sudden you have a rhythm to the game. But here, very big gold swing. Right? Very big gold swing. And this is also such an important window in the game. Right? Very important window in the game. It's not that it's bad that they want to do Drake. It's fine. Yeah, the same thing, right? It's like we come out of a replay because Berserker flashes on the spot. Sucks that we have to watch this. Like, I generally don't care. But it's like we come out of this replay, right? Billy, make sure that they have vision around mid so they can contest. This idea is really important. If you want to elevate your brain to next level macro, is the purpose of contesting mid-wave is to gain information so you can proceed to the next macro step. So look at Billy. They are placing enough vision around mid so they can contest the mid-wave with as few people as possible. So the enemy have to show their body on the wave in order to pressure the enemy off. So look at how Billy plays their vision. They place their vision around the mid because Lucian wants to walk on the wave with as little support as possible from his team so his teammates can proceed to the next macro step. So here in this spot, right? They have vision around mid, they spot Zaya, they spot Rakan. Who can be bot? They have vision, Cannon is down bot wave. He's pushing. Billy are gonna push on the mid wave. They know that the enemy is around mid wave because they have vision on it. They couldn't dive Syndra, they defended the top dive. And Cannon is pushing for free. once again, we have a moment where C9 are grouping, but they're not accomplishing anything, right? And then there's just a snowball of this. Just a continuous snowball of this. Here, right? Cannon is gonna push the neutral wave on bot because Sion C9 is showing on vision. So that he knows already, oh, C9 is playing topside. I can push the next neutral wave. Sion in this position, right? He should have hovered for this mid wave, but he should go back bot for the next bot wave to make sure that Cannon doesn't push for free. What happens? Let's just play it. Sion over moves. Because what does Sion really do here? What does Sion do here? Sion could be on the bot wave and contest. Maybe at this point he loses because voice stuff is finished on Cannon, but this builds tempo, right? And now Cannon pushed, and now Sion needs to catch, and now C9 taking all of the space no longer matters. Because now it's the enemy's timer. Now they see Lucian base timer, they spotted him basing, so they punish. This was a good play. You see, like, Sion was on the wave, didn't let Cannon push the neutral. He made him think twice. Right? Let me just take off my hoodie. Yeah, shutdown Rakan is definitely rough. Hoodie fruity. Oh man. This is too funny, dude. Thank God for Yagao. Giving C9 a freebie. What is Yagao's mistake? What have we learned so far, guys? On and Elk just want to spot people on mid. Now you see enough people on mid, so you can peace out. We already have all the information we need. The enemy is 4 people on mid. We don't need to be here. Sion is top, 3 people on mid. It's not like Rakan's gonna kill these homies. So all we need to do is back off. Make sure we don't die. And then we are just in a position, in case the enemy tries to collapse on Nash, that this is where we are aware of how we use our blue trinkets and so forth. We make sure that if C9 push us off this wave and they collapse on Nash, that we are ready to contest. But Yagao is looking for mushrooms. And Sven finds a little neat W. Cool. This was very disappointing. Very disappointing. Right? Because we talked about the Nash, how you have to secure the Nash if you do the Drake like this. Like Cannon, and you have 4 people around mid, right? And you blue trinket and you put wards. But this was pretty disappointing because you have Kindred ult to play with, you have Xayah Burst to play with, you have a lot of tools to play with. But this just turned out to a dry smite at 180. Like, very dry. Let me see how this plays out. Let's slow that down. Slow-mo. Oops. A bit too far. Slow-mo. The Xayah feathers. Oh. Oh, the green smite. Who smote? Can the frame update? Can it update? Well, someone smoked, but both are on cooldown. Thank you, overlay. Let's see what smite goes with cooldown. Both smites went on cooldown. Why didn't Kindred ult? I don't know why Kindred didn't ult. I think that they just wanted to time the feathers together with the smite, and I think maybe they just like miscalculated something like this. It was off. And yeah, as sad as it might sound, this is kind of a nail in the coffin for the composition that wants to be strong on Drake 1, 2, 3. You know? The Galio is too far behind in terms of CS. The Cannon is so far ahead in terms of CS, and these were some of the sacrifices that Billy made, or trades that they made, in terms of their side lane management. But C9 could have stifled that bleeding, even in the cases where they did Drake. But this is just the NA meta, to over-index on Drakes. It's also the BDS meta, right? I don't want to say this is like an NA thing only, because BDS got all the way to the finals doing this, right? This is the BDS MO, right? So this worked in Europe too. It's not like NA, it's only NA. It's like BDS, do this. BDS do this too. BDS would have gotten slaughtered by the exact same macro concept. I assure you. Let's go to game number 3. Game number 3. Billy. Maokai, Kesante, Varus. They're now on blue. C9 chose red after getting dominated. They switch up the bans. They ban Nidalee, Vi. They remove the junglers that Jun is really good on. Cool. Ahri gets first picked. Aphelios, Sion. Oh, I'm not too unhappy. I think that's okay. Aphelios, Sion. You invite the Gwen. Gwen is a monster. It's been. But he has shown that whatever the fuck he picks, he's going to be a monster. At least you set up a LeBlanc. Right? LeBlanc into this 1, 2, 3 is very good. Right? LeBlanc is very good in the against this 1, 2, 3. So they want to like change things up. Eminence is underperforming. Let's create a comfort zone for our homie. Alright? Viego Nautilus for 5 ban. Lulu, Rakan. I thought, you know, Lee Sin here on 4 is really good considering the bans. You have to play Wukong. Wukong is a little bit weaker, and Lee Sin is very good with LeBlanc, and Lee Sin is pretty decent with Gwen Ahri. So, like, you want to, like, for the enemy team, Lee Sin is probably the best jungler. For you, Lee Sin is also the best jungler. I like the Lee Sin pick. Very, very good. Right? They go Wukong, Alistar. Here you have options, right? I was thinking maybe you pick Janna because Wukong and Alistar are pretty bad into it, but I think Thresh is perfectly fine. Right? Thresh is perfectly fine. Aphelios Thresh should be winning against Alistar Jinx. It's like Alistar here is picked, and this is just rough. I was like, oh, maybe they pick Janna here. But it's like, Janna is a wonky champ, right? You get Ahri rooted, Ahri champ, then you fucking hate this champ. You know? Blind Alistar. Like, it's not... It is blind, but a lot of bans have happened. A lot of bans have happened. Draft-wise, I thought, oh, this is a pretty decent LB game. I think LB can get some value here. LB Lee Sin, I thought it wasn't the end of the day. They have decent bot lane matchup, good 2v2 mid. Sion into Gwen is like the only pain point. I think that's perfectly cool and fine. Brom or Renata on 5. It's not like Renata's, like, you can find champions that are decent into Alistar, but it's not like Renata's like giga broken here into Gwen, for example, or like Jinx that is playing on distance. And also Ahri, right? So it's not like super broken here or something. I think Thresh and Aphelios is a very strong combo, and you can find ways to pressure, right? So I think it's perfectly fine. Like this matchup bot, I wouldn't want to be Jinx Alistar. I thought in this game their plan would be to do split map strat with Sion. Because sure, Jinx can maybe rocket the wave, but I think if Thresh Aphelios play for like the flash all-in, I think maybe they can look for something and look to make it volatile enough for them to crash the wave, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm not entirely sure on this. Maybe if there is one like Upset or Crowny in the chat for some reason, listening to me talk shit, maybe they can correct me. I'm not so sure. They never did creative level 1s with Sion, but that doesn't matter, right? T1 never did creative level 1s with Sion until they did. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. Looking at the game, let's see if it was uploaded. I think it's just better for me to get a clean VOD. So this game, C9 decided to go for a lane swapperoo. Like creative Sion level 1s have existed since forever, guys. It's nothing new. Nothing new. So they wanted to send the LB into the Gwen and then Sion into Ahri, which I think is clever. I don't think that's that bad. I actually like this idea. The only issue here is that MNS is quite late into top, and I think that you could be a little bit greedier with your position, because I don't think that the enemy is going to actually predict this, right? So here with the greed, it means that LB is now going to rush top and then be in like she is using W, which makes her a lot weaker. She uses a W to get 3 CS, when in reality, here Jizuke said you should just go Q and Q auto so you don't have such a weak spell level 1, because here is on cooldown and Bing can actually like thin out the wave and fight for level 2, so that is like a bit of a problem. And here Gwen is fighting for the wave, right? He like he's after, it's like you can see on the minimap that he W's forward on Bin's level 2 and MNS is still level 1, and now he hits the final minion and he goes chain, still no Q with the Ahri LB, and here Bin just ghosted to try to get as big of a chunk as possible. The reaction to this ghost, Blabber just turns around and says, yo, I'm gonna fucking gank this guy. I'm gonna do it through lane because he's just warded. I can do that with Lee. That's cool and all. Here maybe El could just flash to finish up Berserker because Sven had no spell, but he's taking a chill pill and taking it easy. And we continue. Here comes the lane gank, and I don't know what happened. There's no ghost here on Bin, so he definitely should be killable. Eminence doesn't need to die here, and somehow the Gwen gets a 1-for-1. And additionally, LeBlanc doesn't get an exciting base at all, and this wave was stacking and crashing towards Gwen. That's a dirty look. Very bad. And on top of that, Lee Sin is showing on top wave, and your bot lane gets dove. Your bot lane gets damn dove. Ugh. Ugh. So in my rundown of C9 versus Bilibili, I said that MNS is such a feast of famine player. I think that Fudge and MNS do really good against players that are worse than them. And in North America, that is the majority of the players. But if things go bad for them, they tend to bleed all over our gorgeous League of Legends carpet. And we can't even clean it out. Because you only get 2 chances. I think Gori is way more important for Golden Ganyas than MNS is for C9. Gori and River are just really strong, really good at playing together. Blabber does not look outclassed. No, for sure not. Blabber had a good series. Out of all the Western teams, who's in the best position to go further in the tournament? I said it before the tournament even started, and I still say it to this day. G2. Luckily for G2, I think G2 will face Bilibili. I think G2 will beat Mad Lions, and then I think that they will beat Bilibili. And then they will lose to whoever is waiting for them at the other side of that. Or, yeah, they will. And that's where we'll get the rematch of G2 versus Gen G. This is how it works, right? Let me just paint it for you guys. I see a red door and I want to paint it black. Alright, so this is how it works, right? So currently, hey Verius, by the way, good to see you. So currently we still have JDG versus GG, but let's say JDG lose. I mean win, sorry. JDG versus Bilibili. Right? And then we have T1 versus Gen G. So basically we're gonna have Mad versus G2. And GG versus GG versus, of course, C9. So let's say G2 win. Then they're going to play the loser of the other side of the bracket, which is Bilibili. And then, so let's say here we have JDG. This is my prediction of the whole bracket, right? JDG versus T1. Let's say this is the case, right? And then let's say Golden Guardians win, and they have to now play Genji. So we have G2 versus Bilibili and Genji versus Golden Guardians. Okay? So now G2 beat Bilibili and Golden Guardians lose against Genji, and we have the Genji versus G2 rematch. Here, let's say JDG won. T1 is waiting for whoever wins this series. We have Genji versus T1 rematch into finals. T1 versus JDG. No, the bracket is swapped here in this. I went after the VCT. Like, if it's not swapped, then it's a shit system, because we just get the same rematches over and over again. It has to swap here, no? Second round of lower bracket has to swap. Yeah, but Various, if it swaps, it guarantees no rematch. While in theory it's a 50% chance. It swaps. If it doesn't swap, expect an angry tweet from me. I'm gonna find a picture of the LOL esports commissioner laugh, and I'm gonna say, he doesn't take his job serious. He doesn't take his job serious. All right. Let's continue with game number 3, guys. So, to be fair, the game is already in a very, very tough spot. Very tough spot. We had the bot dive. We had the Jinx, Alistar. It's like they're gonna get pushed, but usually they should be chipped away on their HP bar. But we have summoners trade back and forth. Alistar comboing, finding like a good angle, right? Was very nice. Like in my mind, it's like this is not the matchup I've seen often. But the way I would say is either you flash and fight to the death with like stronger runes, and you heal and you Doran's Blade and you fight to the death level 1 with Thresh Aphelios, or you create a circumstance where you just chip away at the HP bar, let it bounce, and then when you bounce you have better weapons and you have chipped away at the Cull Jinx. Okay, we continue. Here C9 are fighting to the death. Lee Sin has base, Wukong has no base. So this is after the dive, right? So Wukong has no base, and Lee Sin has base. Pickaxe is bought, Jinx has base. Base, base, based. 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 Ari somehow, is coming into this situation with no mana. Not somehow. She's laning. She didn't base. She didn't base. Neither did Sion, but at least Sion has a biscuit. He came, he brought something to the party, a little biscuit. Yagao has nothing to contribute. He has prio, but here, Alice has no combo. He already comboed, you know? Like here, I think if he doesn't W the homie, they can just punch away at him and they can maybe do something. But it's the key detail here is that they haven't based. Jinx now has a pickaxe, and that's why they want to fight to the death. But the thing is, you know, Aphelios is just a little bit more useful considering he has Purple Gun, Green Gun, and he has 2 great spells to contribute, you know? He's also first to this situation, and he swaps to blue. Has already used the green to swap ammo, and the value of Aphelios is really nice in this fight. So I think Bilibili made a mistake of contesting this. He should have just based. Oh, this is blindingly white. Yeah, so it swaps. Wait. Loud. It doesn't swap. Oh no! That's terrible. Wait, this is play-ins. Okay. Bro, I thought this was like some Valorant tournament. Holy shit. I was like, I didn't even look at the names. Because like the flags, I was like, alright. It swaps. Okay, it swaps, guys. Yes, it swaps. Nice. It swaps. Nice. You see, L8 versus W8. L8 versus W6. Nice. All right. Okay. All right. So, C9 get a big comeback here. Double kill for Aphelios. They bounce back after a rough start. LeBlanc is in shit conditions, but they get a nice bounce back. Good for them. Good for them. We continue. Blab is having the game of his life on the Lee Sin. Very nice positioning here by On. Jun is also backing up his homie, Shun. There's going to be 50 people just correcting me in chat. This is probably going to be the longest rundown ever because I'm just talking so much. But I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone, guys. I'm in some kind of zone right now. We continue. Let's fast forward a little bit. These are very painful moments. Very painful moments. Your boy Bin just survives like that. Your boy Ben just survives like that. I'm trying to find the most important educational moments of this game. Trying to remember. Forgive me for the chaos of this episode. I like how Ben just doesn't give a fuck. He TP's bot while his team is fighting on mid. Because what should he do here in this fight? It's like Billy is kind of like trolling by even posturing on this. Gwen pushes in bot wave and now she's on the flank. Alice has no ult though. I don't even remember how this fight goes. Ben gets... Oh, I remember this. Okay. I remember this. Oof. Ben is on the flankeroo. And Ben gets kicked out of his flankeroo, but Fudge, what is Fudge doing here? Let's review this fight here. What's going on? Why is he pushing forward like that? Why is he pushing forward like that? What is that? Where's LB? Where's LB? Where's LB? Why don't I see LB? Oh, LB is portaling. Okay, LB is here. So LB is here. She's poking. Alright, now she has no spell. Play around the fact that she has no spell. She has no spell. My man just walks in to die. Pay attention. Like you use hook, you use LeBlanc spell, you need to kite back. You need to kite back. C9 just so afraid. Guys, all of these, oh, the Western teams choke, they're so afraid, whatever. It's like, no. It's just, sometimes the enemy team is better. Okay? And that's it. Look at this movement from on here. My man went all around the world. We can make time rubbing and stopping because I'm in my mind. He's a red hot chili pepper man. Boom. Snacks on him. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Think you're in a bad mood today? Really? Really, I'm in a bad mood. That's interesting. That's crazy. I just made a red hot chili pepper joke. I made a red hot chili pepper joke. Alright, I'm dragging on this a little bit too long. Let's look at the game deciding moments. And then let's do the JDG versus Golden Guardians predictions. Let's look at the JDG versus Golden Guardians predictions. That's done with the backup. What even happened in this game? This game just lost. I think we've seen enough. I think honestly after that Drake fight, oof. Alright, let's do JDG versus Golden Guardians. Sorry guys, I'm kind of out of juice. I'm out of gas. Alright, Golden Guardians with JDG. I think JDG is gonna 3-0. I think anything that Golden Guardians can take is the crumbs that JDG will give to them. The issue that Golden Guardians will face here is the fact that their bot lane couldn't breathe against Elken on. I can assure you that they will not be able to breathe against Ruler and Missing. Because Elken on, for example, couldn't breathe against Ruler and Missing. So I'm doing some LOL esports math. And I'm gonna do the safe prediction that Ruler's gonna slap his big old balls on top of, like, one on Huhi's face, one on Styx's face, and they will struggle for air. The other layer of this, when I think of the jungler that comes into this tournament that has the potential to be the most complete in this tournament, I think Kanavi. Kanavi didn't have the smoothest year, but if I think of Kanavi playing Nidalee or Belveth or Vi or whatever else that you want him to play, he is going to fucking perform. He's really, really good. He played Vi when everyone else was in his nutsack, by the way. Kanavi is damn good. And I think when it comes to the solo lanes, I think that they won't be a problem. I don't think Knight will be an issue. I don't think 369 is going to be an issue. And as long as they won't be an issue, I don't see the entry point here for Golden Guardians. Maybe Golden Guardians could do something cheeky, like a little Yasuo composition. Maybe some crazy, you know, we're gonna gank bot level 1, do some bush tactics and drag out the game a little bit. Have like a superficial lead that might give the Western viewers a little bit of a hope, like a little bit of a dose of hope in the game. But it will be short-lived, as there will be a Drake fight on Drake 2 that Golden Guardians will miss position on, and JDG will break their ankles. But I do have to say, if Golden Guardians somehow find a way to get their foot through the door, I think that they've been good with their flanks and good with their fight takes sometimes. And that's a plus. But you need to get your foot through the door. And that door has teeth. And they bite. You put your toe in there. You need to make sure that you got some steel-ass plated shoes. Because Ruler will just... And that's my prediction. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. I'll catch you guys on the Flip It Flop.